Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. Hope you guys are all well on your Thursday evening. On tonight's show, we'll be looking ahead to Saturday's home game with Stevenage at the Valley, and of course, wrapping up the closure of the January transfer window. Joining me to do those things, first up top right, Mr. Tom Willin. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm alright, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Sorry, I was just reading messages. Our Stevenage fan has dropped out, but someone potentially has been nominated in his place. So it's a moving picture tonight's show, which is quite exciting. Yeah, I'm good. I haven't even had the chance to take the mick out of you not wearing the yellow shirt, but I'm good, thank you. Also, bottom of the screen there is Mr. Benji Clegg. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good, mate. What I was wondering, early kick-off Saturday, so down the Valley Calf, do you have to change your order now? More of a breakfast style thing rather than lunch?
Well, no, because I have a breakfast for lunch on a Saturday anyway, so it's just, maybe I have to have two breakfasts. That's a good question, Ben. It's a good point. Early kickoff though, don't forget that, or indeed go a little bit too soon on booking your train tickets, Tom, like for Stockport, but it's not for me to say. So yeah, on tonight's show, then Tom's not buying. Basically, he booked early train tickets for Stockport, and now he has to change them, and it's costing him loads of money. Whereas I booked mine today.
If you want to spend the whole show ranting about the state of football, I'm happy to do that instead. But I don't think that's what people are here for, really.
No, it might be. I got mine today, and it only cost me 40 odd quid, so I got a good deal. Tonight's show, then we'll be looking at the signings. I'm going to bring up a depth chart on our screen shortly. Hopefully, we're going to hear from someone Stevenage related in a few moments' time, but we'll see. And of course, we'll hear from Nathan Jones on the transfers and looking ahead to Saturday's game with Stevenage, early kick-off down the Valley. Good evening to everyone who joins us in the chat. Gary's in there first, still upset about Saturday, gutted that we lost a 2-goal lead. He's saying, is Gary. Sam's in there as well. Said it's been a long week, but he can't wait to get back to the Valley. Dudley's in there. Patrick, Paul, Joe, our very own Susie in there. Alan, Sam, James, Stephen, David, John, and Toby. Let us know your thoughts on the game coming up this Saturday, and of course the transfer window, which we're about to discuss now. So on deadline day, the Addicts got 2 signings over the line. Makes it 2 incomings in total, of course, for the January transfer window. Both of our January transfer window signings actually happened in February. 8 went out the door as well. Let's hear what Nathan Jones made of the business that the Addicts did in the January transfer window.
Talked at the start of the January window about using it to streamline the squad and add quality. How do you assess our activity?
Well, look, we've definitely streamlined the squad. We've got it down to a real lean squad now, where we feel that everyone's going to impact and everyone impacts on a daily basis. Then any supplementary ones we use will be, promoted from the under-21s, from the academy, because we feel that they're not far off and need that exposure. So it's been a good window as far as that concerned. Have we added quality? Yeah, we do think we have. Both the players we've brought in, we would have liked to have added one more. I'll be brutally honest, we'd have liked to have added one more, but the opportunity didn't come, and we couldn't get over the line what we wanted to. So that was the only thing to come out of it. But apart from that, we're happy. We've done exactly what we thought, and it was really important. We didn't just take anyone just to fill numbers. As I said, I would rather dip into the quality that we have in the 21s and the academy. So yeah, we've effectively done what we wanted to do.
Alex Gilbert arrived on loan from Middlesbrough on deadline day. What will he bring to the club?
Well, we wanted that final third quality. We've got. We let a number of midfield players go. We let 3 midfield players go, so it was important we strengthened in that area to make sure then that we've got 5 midfield players that can really, really impact from now to the end of the season. They will all be used. They will all, really compete for those 3 berths, if you like. And he adds an attacking quality to that. Luke Berry's a real good attacking midfield player, really fluid. Have we really got the specific competition for him? We hadn't. So Alex would provide that different bit of quality, but that real competition in that area. And as I said, we don't normally take loans. We don't like taking loans, but when we feel that someone has real quality, then we do that.
Tom McIntyre also joined on loan. What can we expect from him?
Look, Tom's real experience with Romani going. Romani made it clear that he wanted more game time, so that was fine. So that was a little bit of a reactive one, in terms of we knew, Tom was available. We did that deal, then we're able to let Romani go and to further his career. So what he will bring is, firstly, he'll bring a real good experience because he played the majority of his time in the Championship, at some real good clubs. He also brings balance because, as I said, we've got a number of defenders, but he brings that left-footed, left side centre half balance, and we've only got Maka really in that area. So that was a real consideration. And look, he has real good quality, in terms of in possession. He's a really good footballer and has played games from a young age. So again, experience, balance, and a knowledge of playing at the top end, if not higher league than this.
There we go. That's Nathan speaking to the club earlier on today about the transfer business that the Addicts did during the window. So brought up onto the screen for those of you joining us via YouTube, just a list of the ins and the outs that we've seen over the course of the last month or so. So Gilbert and McIntyre have come in on loan from Borough and from Portsmouth, respectively. And then over the course of the month, we've sent 8 out in various guises. So Nathan Asimwe has gone out on loan to Walsall. Terry Taylor to Northampton Town. Zach Mitchell was a deadline day mover to St Johnstone on loan. Dan Potts and Danny Hilton. I put them both down as released. Obviously, Dan Hilton is still sort of floating about, doing what he does. Alan Campbell has gone to Dundee United, the circumstances of which are a bit confusing, but he's no longer with us. Teo Eden, as we'll remember, went to Peterborough United, and Romani Edmonds Green, of course, the second he got sponsored by the Charlton Chronicles, had to leave immediately. That was quite funny. They took it very well on Twitter. But yeah, he went to Leyton Orient on the last day of the window. So, Tom, what have you made of that? We were promised streamlining. That's what we've got. Is there enough there to sustain a push for the playoffs in the second half of this season? What do you think of it?
It's a boring answer, but I guess we'll find out come the end of the season, really. I think we had to do that first. I think we've spent too many summers and Januaries buying the wrong players, buying short-term, buying players that haven't worked out. And there was no point doing that again. So I totally agreed with the whole, we need to strengthen first. You look down that list of players that have gone, I don't think really, I know a lot of us spoke about liking Terry Taylor, but Nathan Jones didn't seem to want him. And if Nathan doesn't want him, then what's the point in keeping him in the squad? And there's no one else there that was really pulling up trees or, anything other than a fringe player. So to get rid of all of that is great. Would I have liked more to come in? Possibly, yes. I think it'll be interesting. I don't know too much about either of the signings, but Gilbert obviously plays in the position that we were talking about. I would have liked somebody else wide and pacey to come in. We've spoken about that a few times, the sort of Tyrese Campbell style player. But apart from that, I don't really know what more you could do. You risk overpaying, you risk investing heavily in somebody who doesn't work out, or you do exactly what we've done. You get a couple of loans. If they work out, brilliant. Maybe it's enough to see us over the line. And if not, then they go back. And I said it to a few people when I was I posted about Nathan Jones having been here for the year, and I was having a back and forth with a few people and saying, I know it's likely that we'll be in League One next year, but we don't know. We might get in the playoffs, and if we do get in the playoffs, we might get promoted. It's very difficult to have those sorts of conversations with any players now because we just don't know. So I think the important stuff was getting Jones over the line. It will be important to get the likes of Small and Leeburn over the line as well. Keep that core that we have got. And once we know where we are next year, we can then start to build around that. And this can become a process, which is what it hasn't been in recent years. So, yeah, it's a shame we didn't get one or two more in. But largely, I think it's important that we've trimmed the squad down and we've now got a good base to build from moving forwards.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was suggestion that Jewison Bennett from Sunderland was on his way down. I mean, I was long asleep by the time this was all coming out, but when I woke up in the morning, it sounds like Sky announced that we had actually signed him before then, but then we hadn't. For whatever happened, I'm not sure what happened there. But Ben, we'll talk about the players that have come in first, talk about the players that have gone out after, then we'll do the little depth chart that I've done as well to have a look at where we're strongest and where we're weakest. And obviously everyone in the chat is is having their say as well. I mean, Dudley saying not too sad about any of the departures. Gilbert has potential, not sure about Tom McIntyre, but pleased we kept Jones and Small. And obviously that is another big part of this window that Nathan Jones has spoken about today, is that we've kept players who were bid for. You know, if I have to guess, I think he's earlier on in the window spoken about Tyrese Campbell having bids coming in. You'd assume someone like Thierry Small or Miles Lieburn, there would have been interest shown, if not a bid coming in, who knows. And that's what Sue says as well. Keeping hold of our most important players makes it a great window, considering we're normally a selling club. I mean, the two that have come in then first, so Gilbert plays in the Championship with Middlesbrough, doesn't get a great deal of game time. He's played a bit. Obviously, McIntyre's been around this level before. I think it was Reading he was at. Didn't come with the greatest of reviews from the Portsmouth fans, but then they sent us Craig McGilvray with really good reviews. They clearly, all between them, don't know a single thing about football. Ben, I mean, what have you made of the two that have come in to start us off?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Alex Gilbert. I think because we spoke on Sunday, didn't we, about potentially what positions would we like to bring these players in, and obviously one key position is bringing someone, because you notice Berry comes off around like 60, 65 minute mark quite a few times, and we usually bring on Karoy in that position. And I just, as much as Karoy works really hard and he runs about and he presses really well, just that end product from him of slotting a ball through to the strikers or popping up in the right time in the box, I don't think are his qualities yet. I mean, he's still young, he's still learning. Whereas getting someone in like Alex Gilbert, is someone that looks very exciting, who, as he said in his interview, likes to get on the ball, likes to create chances, gets in the box at the right time, is someone we've been crying out for, really. So, yeah, obviously he comes with quite big reviews from the Middlesbrough fans. He's not played much this season. I noticed he played a couple of times in the League Cup, full 90. He came on once against Hull and he scored a goal, which, going by the goal I watched, was him arriving in the box at the right time, like a Luke Berry style player, and slotting it into the back of the net. So, yeah, really excited about him, because I think that's a missing piece of what we've needed. Someone who can come on and kind of, when Berry's getting tired, can change the game and can be breathing down Berry's neck, saying, hang on, mate, like, don't rest on your laurels or anything. I'm knocking on the door to take your spot. So, yeah, really excited about him. In terms of Tom McIntyre, well, as Sue mentioned on Sunday's pod, it was a spot we definitely needed. The left-sided centre-backs. I guess we had Dan Potts there, but whether he was offering a lot of competition to Macaulay, I don't know. I don't know whether he was fit enough to do that. I know he started the Stevenage game, actually, when we played them at their place. So yeah, I think definitely a position we needed. Whether he's going to be fit and firing, ready to go, because he's not played much football. He's obviously had an injury as well. But look, he's got a point to prove. And obviously, we were talking on Sunday about Macca's mistake on Saturday against Blackpool and how that was a shame because he'd had a good game. But now he's got a bit of competition behind him for his spot. You might now see the best of Macca, and he can work out these mistakes out of his game, and we can really push him on. So that's what it's about, isn't it? I know it's a small squad and we would like to have seen a little bit more, but ultimately it's about competition for places. It's not having people, like Nathan just said, having people like Reg that ultimately know they're not going to break into the first 11 and think, actually, I want to get out of the club and have some regular first team football. We've got a real core there, and hopefully, fingers crossed, no injuries, these players can fight and give these competition for places that we need.
Yeah, we'll see. Isaac says, even if the new signings turn out bad, they made good announcement videos. So they really did, didn't they? The players that went out then. So, I mean, bear in mind, we've spoken about most of these throughout the course of the window anyway, Tom, because they've happened before deadline day. But I think, so I make that two that officially went on deadline day, which was Zach Mitchell going out to St Johnstone on loan and Romani going off to Leyton Orient. I mean, with Zach, he hasn't really featured. I think he played the cup game, didn't he, at Southend? I'm guessing he probably featured in some of the EFL trophy games as well. But, if he's not playing, then get him out there. Although, like I said, we'll look at the depth chart in a minute and decide if we've got enough depth. But, I mean, Romani, senior player. He's gone now, permanent. We won't be seeing him again in a Charlton shirt. What have you made of his time with the club, and were you sad to see him go?
No, but I don't think he's been particularly bad for us at all. I just think if we're looking at being a club that moves forward, I think he's probably not good enough. I think for the current squad, he's absolutely fine as a backup. But I would like to think that if we want to move forward, we need to be signing players that are at the level of a Lloyd Jones or potentially an Alex Mitchell or a Kane Ramsey. That needs to be our benchmark now. It's all well and good to say, okay, well, they're some of the better players in the squad. Well, so what? That we need a squad full of people like that now, to be honest. And I don't think Reg was at that level. It may be greedy, but if that's the ambitions of the club, then that's what we need to do. We just can't have players where when a player gets injured for a long time, like we saw with Jones, for example, we just can't risk having a downgrade. And Reg wasn't a massive downgrade, don't get me wrong. And I thought when he came in and filled in at right back for a little while, it must have been when Ramsey got injured initially, I thought actually he did okay. But we just need to try and strengthen in all areas. And ultimately, we'll see whether Tom McIntyre does that. And obviously, that's why it's a loan. But that's what we need to be looking to do now. And as I say, if we find out we're in League One next year, maybe that changes the conversation a little bit. But if not, realistically, if we ask ourselves, was Reg ever going to play in the Championship? Probably no. Some of the other players, like a Lloyd Jones, probably yes. So that's the sort of way I'm looking at it. I know it's very positive and it's speculation for where we are next year, but I just think that's the way the ownership have to be now. They have to look and they have to just ignore that. And as Sam says in the chat there, Reg wanted to play as well. And we can't guarantee him those minutes because we've got other players in the side.
I mean, Isaac's asking about the thoughts on him going to Orient, who are also chasing playoffs, Tom. I mean, would you have had any concerns about that? I mean, my brother texted me the same question. I said I'm not too concerned about that. Not really. I don't think him leaving weakens us enough or strengthens them enough for it to become a massive problem.
Exactly that. Yeah. If we sold a Lieber to lay an Orient or a Lloyd Jones, for example, yes, absolutely, because as you say, it both weakens us and strengthens them. Reg might go on to be brilliant for them. You look at Darren Pratley still doing it for them, and that still annoys a lot of us when we kept Ben Watson instead. But you don't know. And obviously, we don't know how they're going to fare for the rest of the year. If he goes in, plays a blinder, scores them 10 goals, keeps them 20 clean sheets, and they go on to win the league, you go, okay, maybe we made the wrong decision. But that's all based on hindsight. I think anyone looking at the stats on paper would say he can go there and it won't cause us too much trouble. And maybe he'll prove us wrong. And if he does, fair play to him. But yeah, I just don't think, I think he needed to go. He wanted to play. And I think we move on from him and we look to strengthen, as I say, in the summer once we know what's going on.
Yeah, so, I mean, James said got rid of a load of deadwood, but could have done with some serious quality coming. We look a bit light. I mean, Sam's asking if there's going to be any Rascal Luar style free agents coming in. Well, I guess there's always the option for a free agent, but have we ever signed a good one off the top of my head? I can't think of any, but, maybe Connor Wickham last season was okay for the 5 games he wasn't injured, but, that's the sort of thing you're dealing with. But, I mean, it's Sam, black and white. It says, evening all, good window or bad window? I want to know your answer. Those of you in the chat, would you say that was a good window or a bad window? And you can probably base it off this next thing I'm going to share on the screen. Then again, for those of you watching on YouTube, then you'll see that I've put together just a list of the squad, sort of like a depth chart in each position. Those of you listening on the pod, we'll go through each position as we do it, and I'll say where we are. But I mean, obviously, so I'll be interested to know, those of you in the chat and Tom and Ben joining me. When you're looking at this chart, so it shows what players we've got in which positions. Where do we look strong, and where do we look vulnerable? So, I mean, Mark said it in the chat earlier. If you look at up front, he says, I'm surprised we've kept all the strikers. It seems a bit top heavy now. So for those front two, I've got six players there. So got Matty Godden and Tyrese Campbell as the two obviously started the last game. The team that started the last game are in bold. Then you got Miles Lieber and Chuksaniki, Dan Kanu and Ghassan Ahadme. So I mean that's a stronger part of the side. Ben, when you look at that chart, what concerns you and what makes you think, wow, that is a part of the pitch that can really make a big difference for us positively between now and the end of the season?
Concerns me the most is if Lloyd gets injured again. I think we saw it before earlier on in the season that if he gets injured, we kind of fall apart. But then you've got to be realistic and think, were we actually going to sign someone as good as him to come in if he gets injured or sent off and he misses a few games? Are we going to sign someone to go, hello, mate, do you fancy joining us? You won't start because we got a really good back three at the moment, but you can stand in the wings and be ready to come. So I think if you're realistic, that's not going to happen. And they were happy to let Reg go to get more minutes, which maybe happened later on in the window. So fair enough. But yeah, we've got to hope that we don't get an injury to Lloyd in that position. And the other one's Connor Coventry for me, because, I mean, obviously at the base of that midfield, I think he goes underrated a lot of games because of having George Dobson win 2 Player of the Years in a row, and we were like all gutted when he left. I think he's come in and done his job quietly. Okay, there's stuff he can improve on, but I think he's a real consistent player for us, and hasn't got injured for us. So are we banking on that with not having someone who can also play in that position? Maybe. But yeah, I mean, that's the obvious positions where we look like. I mean, as I've said many times on this show, I mean, to have Matty Godden and Miles Leaburn, and obviously, well, one of them's even not starting at the moment because it's one of them with Tyrese Campbell. Most sides in this league would have Godden and Leaburn starting up front for them in this league. So there, I love our strikers, although I wish we would have let Kanu go out on loan, because if he's not going to get minutes, he's got bags of potential, in my opinion. So I think it's a real shame if we're just going to not use him much. I think if we would have had a League Two loan, that could have done his confidence a world of good, and his experience, like Zach Mitchell's going to get playing for St Johnstone. So that's a shame, but I think full-backs, we look very strong, especially as you've got Kane there as a centre-back. Up front, we look strong. It's just that defensive mid and the centre-back if we lost Lloyd.
Yeah, so I mean, so looking at the centre-backs then, so Lloyd Jones, so of the back three, as I put it, Lloyd Jones is the only one who I'd say is consistently going to play in the middle. So if he gets injured, you're then probably asking Alex Mitchell to come across, or maybe Kane Ramsey to play in the middle. Gillespie, we said we needed backup for him, and McIntyre's coming. So I just think that's the very centre part of the back three. I mean, one injury there, and that's probably more on the quality of the player than anything else, because Mitchell probably could go there. You're looking at left wing back, Josh Edwards. Yeah, Thierry Small obviously can play on that side as well. But he's done so well on the right. I mean, that would be a bit of a mixture. And then, I mean, if Josh comes out, then Thierry's got to go across. Then you're asking either Kane to go right wing back again, or Watson to play there, and then Mitchell get involved. Like, there's a few little bits there, but I agree. I agree in that midfield. So I've sort of put obviously Berry playing in the number 10 where he started against Blackpool, and Gilbert there behind him, and then Karai. That's where I've put him in that little formation. Because I think that's where he's played probably more, but that means Coventry and Doherty don't have anyone backing them up. If one of them gets injured, you're asking Karai to drop into that bit, or maybe Gilbert, who I don't know enough about, to drop into that bit. I mean, if both of them get injured, then it's a very makeshift midfield all of a sudden, Tom. So that bit still feels like it could go wrong with one injury for me, and that's a bit of a concern.
Yeah, you have got options, but as you say, it's makeshift. So Matty Godden has played in the 10, so you maybe drop him back in. You maybe play with 2 midfielders instead of 3. But again, as you say, that's ripping everything up for the sake of it. And that goes back to the point I made around Terry Taylor. Whilst we had him here, at least he was a backup in case of injury. But as I say, Nathan Jones didn't fancy him unless there was an injury. So it's difficult, and it goes back to Benji's point. How do you convince somebody to come in if you know, if fit, Coventry and Doherty will be playing every single game this season? Now, Doherty's come on leaps and bounds. Coventry, I think, has been pretty solid all season. So there isn't really any reason to drop them. It's just if they get injured. Berry, slightly different in that he's a little bit older and obviously does tend to come off 60, 70 minutes. So now to have a couple of options there, I think, is brilliant. But that is still the bit that you look at. The thing you were talking about with Josh Edwards, again, I know it involves ripping up what's working well, but I do agree that Small could go out there and you shift things around with Ramsey and Tenai Watson. So I'm less worried about the left back. But it is that midfield still that's light. And as I say, I don't think Alan Campbell was pulling up any trees, so not really any problem with him going. But I do think that Terry Taylor in particular had shown moments of quality. So I hope it's not a short-sighted decision to let him go. And again, it might just be hindsight, but yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, apart from that, as I say, the people that we've cleared, and everybody's saying it in the chat, we have cleared a lot of dead wood. And realistically, if Coventry or Doherty got injured and you're having to bring Alan Campbell in for 10 games, you're probably still worried anyway. So with lots of the players that we've got rid of, I don't think necessarily it's the worst thing in the world. But if we could have got one more in there, I would have felt a little bit more comfortable, I think.
Yeah, and like we say, that wide forward player that we tried to entice from, was it Sunderland on loan, might have given us another option to play a slightly different way or take some of the load off Tyrese Campbell, which yeah, it's up to you if you think we need that, because he's doing well so far. But obviously, again, if he goes injured, we lack a bit of that pace up front. Obviously, Thierry, like I say, has provided a lot of that coming up from right wing back. But yeah, and Bernie says he thinks the midfield looks a bit light. Paul says, I'd agree on the streamlining bit, but as others say, we're potentially an injury or two in defence and midfield away from playoffs hopes turn into dust. I mean, I guess the thing to think is, that would be the same for most clubs in League One, but would they be as vulnerable as we are? And, I'd have to do a depth chart on those clubs as well, Ben. But I mean, we saw it in a large spell of this season. As you said, a player gets injured and all of a sudden we're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, that's a worry, isn't it? You just don't want this good form to kind of turn against us. You want that competition for places that keep us firing. You've got to think as well, like, we're out of the Virtue Trophy now, aren't we? So that took up a few games that actually you probably would need a bit of depth for, where you would rest the likes of Berry, you would rest the likes of Lloyd and players like that to free up some minutes and try and give some youngsters a go as well. So obviously not being involved in that, you've got to remember we're in the second half of the season now, so there's no League Cup. We're out of the FA Cup. So we've literally just got the league to fall upon. And yeah, we will have Saturday, Tuesday games, but it's one of those things, isn't it, with injuries? You don't know. We have had a few already in key positions, but you've got to trust these sports scientist guys now that we can I mean, you listen to Nathan's interview as well. He was gutted we couldn't get another forward in. As you said, it looked like the Sunderland guy. But he's not sitting there going, I really wanted another midfielder in or anything like that. He was happy with the rest of the squad. So, look, he sees his people every day. He trains with these people every day. So he knows their fitness. He knows, obviously, the minutes they make up. And yeah, like, you look at the likes of Terry Taylor and that, I think everyone was scratching their head. Well, it seemed like everyone was scratching their heads, wondering why he couldn't get in the team. But you've got to think Nathan is training with these players every day. He's seeing on their monitors the pressing game that he likes to play. So obviously, you've got to remember it's his second window at this club, his second transfer window. So there's going to be some players that he doesn't like, some players that we brought in literally a few weeks before he came in that just aren't him. It's nothing against the player. I'm sure he'll do well at Northampton. We've seen his ability, dead ball situations, etc. He's a good character, but do they fit his side? And obviously not. So, yeah, look, I trust him because he's turned around this season, and you've got to look at the signings in the summer transfer window have been decent. And I think some of the players in that January window, I mean, I think you look at the likes of Thierry in this middle part of the season, he's really come on and looked one of our best players. We've kept him, we've kept Lloyd, got him on a contract now, and hopefully Thierry can do the same. And we'll start to look positive now in the second half of the season. One big thing as well, I'd say, sorry, I know I've gone on, but you know how many times we say last couple months of the season, we have everyone comment going, yeah, we need a real big rebuild in the summer. We won't have to say that anymore, will we? We've cut down the numbers. So, and we got a couple of loans in. So, yeah, at least we won't have to say that in the summer, because that gets really tiring.
Yeah, it certainly does. Well, let's have a look at some of the chat again. Bernie's pointing out he thinks the midfield looks light, especially with Coventry 2 games away from a 2-game suspension. James said, again about that sort of fiddling around I'm doing in the midfield there. Maybe Karoy can drop into those one of those deeper line midfield roles, which I think he probably could. He's got a bit of energy. Has he got a pass on him? Maybe not as much as Connor or Greg. Yeah, Joseph says we still need creative midfielders. He thinks it's our weakest position. Isaac agrees with Ben that you can't have two interchangeable players that are good as each other for each position. Sam said he thinks it's a thumbs down for the transfer window. Cleared some deadwood, but I think we needed another quality signing to really push the squad on. Not enough competition for places in the middle. Alan pointing out that Chucks could get injured any time, so you do need the strikers there. Rustos, reiterating maybe we could have kept Taylor there. Thinks we're weak in the midfield. I mean, Jones said he'll dip into the under-21s and the under-18s if they get injuries, said James. I've put a couple of youth players down the side there. Tommy Reed, obviously the keeper, Langer, Etabua, Enslin and Dixon, options for back, middle and front there, really. But again, if you're calling upon them as a last resort, you can't put so much pressure on them. It's saying, right, go and get us promoted. That is a last resort sort of thing. Rustos also says too many strikers. Should have let Kanu go out on loan and either kept a midfielder or bought another one in. Sam says scary to see how much the teams around us have strengthened as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think what we did get is what we were told we were going to get, a streamlined squad and not many signings. So that is what happened. So this is how they laid the groundwork. This has been part of their planning, but it's whether that proves to be enough over the course of the year. We'll hear from Nathan Jones after the break in a bit, where he talks about the fact he's been here for a year now, as Ben mentioned with his transfer windows. I thought he said some pretty interesting stuff there. James says the elephant in the room is Ghassan Ahadme. We ain't seen much of Gas since TC took him out, but even before then, I don't think he was playing that often, was he? And I'm not going to sit here and say we've massively missed him, Tom. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. I also think, I don't know, I always feel like I'm sticking up for Gas, and I don't really know why, because we haven't seen a lot from him. But I just think there's more of a player in there than we've seen, and that might be completely ridiculous, and I'll be proved right or wrong at some point, I'm sure. But I think if you're looking at him or Kanu, I think probably you send Kanu out on loan and you keep Gas because he's slightly more experienced. But I think if Kanu's going to get minutes, he's obviously come on in the last few games and he has got minutes. He played a lot under Jones towards the back end of last season, or I don't know about a lot, but he certainly played and looked good. I do think there is a player in there for Gas. I think he is he's not as good as Miles Lieber, I don't think, but he's that sort of player in that he gets around the box. He's tall. He should be imposing. But the truth is he hasn't done it enough. So if there was an option to get him out and get a midfielder in, when you look at that squad, you think, we need an extra midfielder. I think they're banking on Gas being good. I don't know how much they spent on him. There's rumours it was a lot of money, so maybe they're hoping that he does come good. I'm not really sure, but I totally get why people are sort of down on him. He's probably not going to break in the team at the moment when everybody's fit, because as you say, you've got Lieber, Godden, Tyrese for sure ahead of him. Chuck's coming off the bench, although I agreed with what you said on Sunday that Chuck's has been disappointing recently when he's come on. And Kanu, who's a youngster who's come through the ranks, so you want him to do well. But who knows? If he goes and scores a goal against Wrexham at Wembley, then all will be forgiven, that's for sure. But let's wait and see on Gas. I just really want him to do well, but I don't know how many minutes he's realistically going to get unless players get injured.
John says I'd have Kanu in the team ahead of Gas. Bernie says he lacks pace and that's his biggest flaw. James points out, I think you're on your own, Tom, but I hope you're right. All hell let loose as he doesn't win enough headers for his size. We had a couple of emails just quickly on the transfers as well. McSquared said we may have only managed to make 2 loan signings in the window, but not only do they strengthen us in the required position, i.e. attacking midfield and defence. I mean, that's exactly the positions that Sue asked for on Sunday, so it was quite funny that we signed exactly those 2 players. But the 2 players in question are both young, keen, fit and energetic. Remains to be seen how they will pan out, of course, but they both look decent as opposed to the hand-me-downs and leftovers that we've ended up with in recent seasons. Furthermore, all the players offloaded were surplus to requirements for one reason or another. Hopefully this finally marks the end of our donkey sanctuary days. Our playoff push is well and truly on now. That's from McSquared. And then Mickey says it'd be interesting to see if the new loan signings start on Saturday. As Nathan said, he didn't want to bring in squad players, only people who will make a difference. And that's from Mickey. who joins us from down in Devon. Well, we'll hear from Nathan Jones after the break as we look ahead to the Stevenage game, and he is asked about the fitness of those two players. Right, we'll have a quick break. When we come back, we will turn our attention to Saturday's home game. We'll see you in a few moments' time.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. We're gearing up now for Saturday's home game with Stevenage at the Valley. 12:30 kickoff. Don't forget, it's an early start down in SU7. I will be there eating 2 breakfasts as demanded by Benji earlier on in the show. Our Stevenage man has pulled out. There will be no Sue Cook on this evening's show, I'm afraid. So we will just have to talk about Stevenage ourselves a little bit. I mean, I had looked at their recent form during the week in preparation to start asking our Stevenage guys some questions. They're winning the last 3 league games, narrowly beaten by Birmingham in the EFL Trophy on Tuesday, but before that, those 3 league games, they also beat Leyton Orient in that same competition, the EFL Trophy, which, as we know, is almost impossible. So on a bit of a decent run of form, they've probably left themselves, a bit of a mountain to climb when it comes to trying to push for the top 6. They sit 11th. I mean, they're not a million miles behind us. They're 4 points behind us with a game in hand. So it's doable. I guess anyone from sort of 11th upwards will be saying that. We're in a better position than them, of course, Tom. We'll remember the away game earlier on in the campaign, which we lost by a goal to 0. I remember going into that game, looking at 2 sides that weren't conceding goals, and thinking it's going to be a 0-0, and we managed to lose it 1-0. So, I mean, from their point of view, what were you sort of expecting from Alex Revell's side?
Much the same, I suspect, really. Yeah, I mean, I think they're 22nd for goals scored and they're second best for goals conceded. So, and we talked about this on the reverse fixture, that we all expected that to be a 0-0 because, as you say, at the time we weren't scoring much. I think they were the middle of that run where we lost 3 in a row, weren't they? Because we lost to Blackpool before and then the Bristol Rovers game after as well. So it was probably possibly the lowest point of our season, apart from maybe just the Crawley game, although that was slightly more isolated. But we were definitely in a bad patch. And we did only lose to them 1-0. So, yeah, I expect them to be hard to beat. I expect Pierre Gianni, providing he plays, to be hard work. He's obviously their standout defensive player. But, and I don't want to sound too much like Nathan Jones, if we do the basics right and we're the best version of ourselves, which are the things he likes to say, we should be better than him. We're above them in the league for a reason. It's at home this time. We're good at home overall. We just need to go out there and score the first goal, which so many times proves to be decisive. So, yeah, it's a game again, and I've said this a few times, you look at and you go, well, if you want to get promoted, this is the sort of game you need to win. I don't expect it to be a pushover by any means. I think it'll be tough, but I do think we can win it. And I think it will probably be low scoring, again, going back to all those stats. So, yeah, not an easy game, probably come down to fine margins like so many have, but a winnable one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, considering, like we're saying, that they've not been scoring many. I mean, their last away game, as Paul points out in the chat, they went and beat Hollywood FC Wrexham. They won 3-2 in that game over at the racecourse. They've beaten Barnsley away 1-0 recently as well. 4-1 home win against Exeter, who've started shipping goals for fun, to be fair. Beating Bristol Rovers 3-0 at the Lamex relatively recently as well. So they are starting to pick up a little bit in the goal scoring stakes. Like I say, they've left themselves a bit of a mountain to climb, but they'll be targeting this game as one that they will need to win if they're going to try and get back into that race, sitting 4 points behind us in the table. Right, let's hear what Nathan Jones has to say looking ahead to the game as well. There's also a fair bit of chat about the 1 year anniversary of him taking the Addicts job, which was passed during the week, so he was asked about that as well.
Coming in, as I said, are they both in decent fitness? Are they both in shape to be in contention for the weekend?
Yeah, they're both in contention for the weekend. They've not played loads of 90 minutes lately, but you know, if they were, then they wouldn't be coming out. There's not many people that are in, unless you buy someone. There's no one who's playing 90 minutes regularly gonna, you know, you're going to be able to sign. Alex adds real quality in the final third. We're really delighted to have him, and he provides real competition for us. And then, as in terms of Tom, experience, even though he's only, you know, relatively young man, adds experience, adds balance, adds technical quality. So look, we feel we've done good business in the people we brought in.
And they join a side that's obviously in good form. Squad okay, ahead of quite a busy period, especially Gassan. Is he anywhere near?
Everyone's fully fit.
Cool, good. You've just gone through your 1 year anniversary as manager of the club. We were just outside the relegation places when you arrived, and we're just outside the playoff places now. It's probably a silly question, but how would you assess your year in charge?
Well, thoroughly enjoyable for the start. I'd like to thank everyone that's backed me, and it's been, you know, made me feel very welcome and right throughout the football club, the fans and everything. Are we where we want to be yet? No. Are we making good progress? Definitely, because as you said, you've statistically just said those things. But look, I think we're building. So in a year's time, if we have made the same amount of progress that we've made in this year, then we're going to be in a wonderful place. And the year after that, and that's what we have to do. And we've said that. Getting an initial bump and just trying to win a certain amount of football games is not just what we want to do here. We want to build a really good, sustainable football club that just is in a great place for years and years to come. We've got the owners that want to do that. We've got people now right throughout. You've got a manager that wants to try and build something and wants to be here. We've got a load of young players that we can work with. We've got a really good squad. Yes, we will try and improve that every single window, whether that's 1 player, 2 players, 5 players, whatever that is. We'll try and do that. But I feel the club's in a wonderful place. So to evaluate everything, I think we're making good progress. How 100% satisfied, you never ever get perfection. So if we were top 2 right now, I still wouldn't be saying, yep, we're 100% satisfied, because there's always something we can do better. But I think we've made good progress.
So it's fair to say, I mean, you've always said when you came in, since you arrived, it's about building something for the future. So you're almost prepared yourself for the ups and downs that are always going to follow.
Being a manager, you have ups and downs every day of your life. So if you're not ready for them, then don't do that job. But I think, as I said, it's not just about results. It's not just about, look, we're in a decent position results-wise and everything. So I'm not trying to hide or mask anything, because we're in a decent position, you know. But underneath that, this is a wonderful football club, and it's starting to get back to the top levels of being a wonderful football club. Great people all throughout, work done. There's an environment and a culture now that's conducive for doing really, really good work. You know, the way the people are, anyone who comes into the club will flourish. Anyone who comes into the club gets good work, loves the work. And that's the kind of reputation of football club we want to build, and we are. So it's not just the results, it's everything else that goes with that. Look, we want fans to get behind it, we want the numbers to increase and to get behind everything, and then we can start really sort of making big strides.
And going on to that, the first of which on Saturday at the Valley in an early kick-off, Stevenage in decent form like us. What are you expecting in what will be the first of 2 home games?
A tough game. Anytime we play Stevenage, tough game, and it'll be a real difficult game. But we've got to be. All I'm concerned is we've got to be the best versions of ourselves. And as I said against Blackpool the other day, we weren't quite the best versions of ourselves. At times we were, and if we had been, or we had finished the game the best version of ourselves, then we would have won the game. But as I said, that's all I'm concerned about. It's going to be a tough game. It's another League One game. They're all very, very tough.
There we go. We've got to be our best version of ourselves on Saturday against a side that I assume is well coached, but Nathan forgot to mention it, Ben. So we're just doing Jones bingo there in the chat. Let's talk about the year of Nathan Jones first. You know, he spoke a little bit about that. I mean, in the comments, you know, James has said apart from when he gets defensive about obvious stuff, he's done a good job. Nothing outstanding. Could do better would be my rating. Whereas Sam says, have to take your hat off to him. Worlds apart from where we were under Appleton. Sticks to his guns when we weren't looking great before Xmas and builds a system and culture. Haven't had that since Lee Bowyer. How would you assess this year then that Nathan Jones has had at the Valley, Ben?
I'd assess it as, I think he, as I've said a lot of times in interviews with you, that I think he needs to like just take a breath and come into it. Whereas now, I mean, look at him in that interview. I think that was one of the most chilled interviews I've seen him give. He seems quite calm. Obviously, after a game, it's a bit different. But I mean, even on Thursday night pods, we've seen him quite anxious and like wanting to spit his words out as quick as possible and on the attack. Yeah, I think at points, I think he doesn't mean to be so ferocious in words he says, where it seems like he attacks the fans. It seems like, how dare you say this about my squad? Because obviously we as fans can't see what he's doing on the training ground. Like a lot in that interview there, he said about how he's building this mentality on the training pitch, building standards that obviously weren't there before. We don't know this kind of stuff. We didn't know what Mickey Apples was doing on the training ground, what the staff were doing, that they weren't instilling these values and this training ground vibe that we're getting. And I can honestly see as well that when we score a goal, I mean, look at Thierry Small's goal the other week when the whole team and the staff and the subs all went down and celebrated. We love seeing that as fans. So I think he has brought a real togetherness about us. He's obviously, to you're loving it, that this defence has improved massively. I mean, we've had so many shysters in this defence over the last few years that are now playing. Some of them haven't got clubs. Some of them are playing at the bottom side in League Two. And he's come in.
Quite a lot of them are playing at the bottom side in League Two when you think about it.
Yeah, they are. And you look and you think, all right, Macca's got his faults and we understand that. He didn't bring Macca in. He's brought Alex Mitchell in, who's been really solid for us. Okay, lately a few mistakes have creeped in. But he's built from the back and he's gone George Graham-esque and gone, right, we're not going to concede. We're going to build up from the back. Okay, we might win the odd game 1-0, 2-1, but we're going to build our foundations on that. And that's been a real breath of fresh air for us, because there's no good scoring goals down one end if you're going to concede like lows down the other, and some glaring mistakes, what we saw last year. So, yeah, as much as we get frustrated here and there because we're football fans, we want instant results. We're very impulsive. We look on Saturday's result and go, oh, my goodness, I can't believe Macca did that for the goal. But you've got to look at a bigger picture. And the bigger picture is we're at a far much better point than this time last year. We've got a thinner squad, so we don't need this big rebuild. We've got a real togetherness. We've got a spine down the side, I think, with Lloyd in defence. And you could look now at Coventry and Doherty stepping up, Leeburn and Godden, and you can add around that with your likes of Thierry Small and your Ramsey. So I think we've got a settled squad. Yes, he can be a bit rash afterwards, but ultimately we know from his experience, he's got the experience, he's got the know-how in this job. So, yeah, look, at times we get frustrated. I mean, at that Crawley game, I was sat there getting a train home after that thinking, I just cannot see how this is going to get any better. But he's turned it around, and to many fans' disbelief, mine and Tom's and yours included probably, we have turned it around. And, yeah, and look, that's down to him. That's down to his coaching staff. And I think as well, I know a lot of people go, oh, getting another Luton player, Dan Potts, Danny Hill, and you're getting jobs for mates. But he sees what they bring. He sees experience. I listen to many football podcasts where they say you don't win a title, you don't get promoted. Teams don't do well if you don't have that camaraderie in the team. You don't have a bit of banter, someone who's a bit of a joker, a bit light-hearted after you've lost the game. Maybe these guys will bring in that. Who knows? But he's someone that's been there, done that. So it's time now, after a year where we've seen a change, where I think, yeah, let's put our trust in him. Let's put our support in him. All right, he might say the odd thing out of turn, but ultimately we know he wants well. And I think he's coming across a lot better now in interviews as well.
Yeah, Nathan Jones in charge for a year, almost the length of Benji's answer there. A couple of comments in the chat. Paul says the year of Nathan Jones, a Pulitzer Prize-winning epic in the making. I mean, James said maybe the Cardiff stuff turned his head. He seems calm. There was never anything in the Cardiff stuff. That's the only thing. It sort of got blown about a little bit out of proportion at the time. Sue said his first year is exactly what he said it would be, a project to build on over a longer period of time. Love him. Sam says, well says Sue. Alan says, just give him time. Stuart, we're definitely a better player now. Paul says the players want to play for him. Sam and Gary both talking about his passion. Colin saying Thierry Small has been key to our upturning form, giving us lots of width and pace down the flanks, has got us on the front foot. I mean, just finally on the year of Jones then, if we're calling it that. I mean, Ben mentioned it there, when the pressure that he would have been on under that game against Crawley in that run, 1 win in 9 became a conversation point at one point during the interviews, because that's where we were. That's where it was, and there were performances in that where you thought it weren't going to get any better. What was the thing that clicked, that changed it? Because there was. Now, whether it was a managerial decision or the players finally picking up on what was being said, there was a clear change in the playing style, and I think as Collins pointed out, Thierry, I think, has played a massive part in that, because he's given us another dynamic. But what do you think was the eureka moment where it all changed? Did Nathan suddenly go, no, I need to change the way I'm playing, or did he finally get a message across to the players that something has to be different? You need to do what I'm asking you to do.
It's probably a bit of both. There was a definite shift in playing style after that. I think that's clear. We're still quite direct, but we've got a bit of a purpose about us, and we're less direct than we were. I think for a long time in the early part of this season, it was hoofball, and it did feel like that, and it didn't feel like there was a purpose to what we were doing, and that definitely shifted. I think around that Crawley game, and obviously I haven't gone back and listened, and I doubt many people are, because it won't be a fun listen. There were people calling for a managerial change, but nowhere near the volume that we've had in the past with managers. Most people were trying to figure out a way that this could work under Nathan Jones, because I think people saw that changing managers just doesn't work, right? And if you want to get promoted out of this league, basically, you either blow the league out of the water financially, like Ipswich did and like Birmingham are doing, and if you balls that up, you're banging trouble financially. You get lucky. There is a chance that you just get lucky one season, or you have to just take time. And that's what it needs. And we've seen over, I can't even think what year this is, 4th or 5th in a row that we're down here, maybe even 6th. It's proven that when we change a manager once, twice a season, it just doesn't help, because you have to, as Benji was saying, have to do a rebuild twice a year, every single year. What Jones has given us now is that stability, and it does take time. So yes, he was under pressure, and yes, he needed to figure that out. I think he got defensive partly because he thought he knew what was happening, but also I think partly maybe just out of frustration himself and feeling the pressure. And I do think there was a shift. He might say, nah, we were always playing this way. I would disagree with him there. I do think there was a shift. Whether that was him telling the players, whether that was the players telling him, or as you say, Lou, whether it was just he'd always wanted to play this way and they hadn't done it, I don't know. But there has been a shift since mid-December, and the style is better. Look, we're still not blowing teams out of the water. We're still not particularly exciting to watch, and we're still not winning games by 2-3 goals every week. But we're still a very difficult team to beat, which, going back to that run where we lost 3 in a row, and that Crawley game, and not much around other than that, we became easy to beat in some of those games. You look at how easily Bristol beat us. You look at the Rotherham game even recently, there's the odd game where suddenly we just become very susceptible to being a bit silly. But overall, we're a really difficult team to beat now. And it goes back to what Benji said, building from that base can give us a chance. So, yeah, to be honest, I don't really know what changed. There's a combination of things, but I think what he has started to build here now could be the start of something exciting. Not necessarily will, but could be. And it just needs a bit of time.
Yeah, I think time is important. Because the decision could have gone the other way after we lost to Crawley. Maybe someone would have been tempted. I don't think that happened, but if other clubs might have happened, and we're starting again, but a little bit of consistency, a little bit of building. Let's see where it takes us. Let's not get carried away. It's February. We could still finish 10th. Let's see where we get to though, and then hopefully a bit of consistency. Yeah, James said he thinks the difference was Lloyd Jones coming back. Sam saying Jones coming back, and Doc and Berry remembering how to play football. If you go back to that Leyton Orient EFL Cup, EFL Trophy defeat, I specifically had to ask about those two players if they were doing enough for Jones. I was thinking about that earlier today. Actually, was it them not doing enough, or was it us not doing enough to get them into the game? And obviously Nathan had to find that right balance, and finally we've seen that over the last few weeks, and it's worked. LW says, like Tom. It's still direct, but we look more threatening. The moment of upturn was Thierry at right wing back and Lloydie coming back. First game back was Lincoln away 0-0, and the clean sheets have continued since. I'd love another clean sheet on Saturday. Ben, is there any room for manoeuvre in terms of changes again? So I think it's about 8 of the last 9 games we've been unchanged, because there was one game where we made 2 changes and then we haven't changed since then. So obviously, other than maybe the new signings, I guess they're the biggest questions as to whether maybe Gilbert will come in for Berry, McIntyre in for Gillespie, or a switch up top. I mean, how do you see things playing out on Saturday in terms of the decisions that Nathan has to make for the side?
I think if we'd had the Saturday, Tuesday like we've had recently, then he might change it up. But knowing that we've had a free week, I imagine we'd keep it exactly the same. Especially as, look, the main thing you'd look at is Gordon and Leeburn have obviously changed around. Leeburn's come back from a long injury, started really well, didn't he, after the Wickham game, scored an amazing goal, won the EFL Player of the Month, and then he just seems to get a little bit tired. But look, he's come back from nearly a year out, so that was always going to happen. And when you've got a striker like Matty Gordon biting at the chomping at the chance to come in and make an impact, and he has. And him and TC have linked up quite well, and it's great to see, because that's what we're crying out for, competition for places. So that's the biggest one you'd look at. But I think, look, after Godden scoring on the weekend, he keeps his spot. I mean, the only thing you'd look at with that is they are quite a big physical side. They're built from the back, as Tom alluded to earlier. They've kept the second fewest goals out this season. I mean, they've only conceded 25 goals, other than Birmingham, who've conceded 19. That's the second least this season. So they are hard to break down. They're quite a big physical side. I mean, even up front with the likes of Reed, we know how much of a thorn in their side he's been for us over recent years when he scored. But I mean, they've also got this Dan Kemp, who plays like a number 10 role, who has scored in 3 out of his, well, if you look at the Wigan game as well, 4 out of his last 5 games. So you look and think, all right, Connor Coventry's got to be on his game for that, as he plays the number 10. But yeah, I'd say at the back, they look very physical. And up front, you've got Reed, you've got Roberts there. We know these players because they scored on the break against us at their place. But Dan Kemp seems a really good player at number 10 role. So I'd keep it as it is. But yeah, you look at our bench, you look at, all right, Aniki didn't do so well when he came on against Blackpool. But Miles is there. He's a big threat to bring on. But I think the confidence Gordon brings at the moment, and TC, obviously, I know it was an own goal. Yeah, you look to like Boost and think, let's scare them. They might be quite big at the back, but we're quite quick and pacey, especially if you get small up there as well.
Lovely stuff. Right, we'll leave it there. I mean, it's a couple of comments. James said maybe Gillespie might be dropped. Joseph maybe bring in Mitchell. I'm not sure, like for Ramsey. I'm not sure, but that I'd be doing that. But we'll see. Joseph says he likes to see Alex Mitchell's antics in and around the box as he unsettles players as well. And obviously, like we say, question marks about whether the 2 loanees will get a chance on Saturday. I suspect he'll be off the bench, but we'll see how things play out. Good luck to Lloyd Jones. We won't find out officially until the morning if he's won Player of the Month, but he's been nominated, which is good. Obviously, like Miles was a couple of months ago. Jamie Donnelly from Orient's in there. Roman Burrell at Burton Albion, the striker, and Tom Bloxham at Shrewsbury /Blackpool is in there as well. So he's obviously moved to his new club now. So good luck to Lloyd. Hopefully he can win that for us. Right, we've run out of time on this week's big match preview. Really interesting show looking at the transfer business, assessing where we are ahead of the second half of the season. Let's hope that we've done enough to get ourselves into the top 6 by the time the season is ended. Massive thanks for everyone who's joined us live in the chat. James says that we've been the best versions of ourselves. That's the highest praise you can offer to anyone. Brilliant. Tom and Ben, good to speak to the pair of you as always.
Cheers, lads. Do the basics.
Sorry, I chatted a lot. Someone else just said, "Will I be still talking?" Yeah, I talk for England. I'll carry on my own.
Lovely stuff. Another England call up for the Addicts boys. First time for a while, actually, that is, since we're in the Premier League. Lovely. Right, this has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. Don't forget, we'll be back on Sunday morning to look back at the game against Stevenage. Hopefully you guys will be able to join us then. I'm Louis Mendes. We'll see you again on Sunday.